right, folks, as we mentioned off the top of the show, we've now been joined by Mike Hallihan from the intermission.net. Mike, what's up, man?
What's happening? Just sitting in Stu Hart's dungeon,
How are you? Is that what that
ready to
is?
go. Yeah, man.
Well, listen, we're going to talk some finishers, guys. Now, this is how this is going to work. Now, we were chatting earlier in the week. The challenge was each of us had to come up with our top 5 worst finishers of all time in wrestling. This is what we're going to do. We're each going to get a 10-minute time limit to present our list. If it doesn't take 10 minutes, it doesn't take 10 minutes. And when it's all said and done, we each have to argue, or at least decide upon whose list truly did include the 5 worst finishers. Because I doubt all 5 of us really came up with the perfect list that the entire world will agree to. I doubt anybody could. But somebody's going to have a better list, all right? Now, I'll kick this off because I have some weird caveats and rules in mind the way I did it, and you guys might as well. But I want to explain to you how I came up with this particular list. So I have 3 things that I take into account when I think about a finisher and how it's bad. I think about impracticality, okay? Like how easy would it actually be to hook somebody into this? Like how much would they have to be able to cooperate with you to do it? Or, is it a move that you could believably, get somebody in, all right? Number 2, poor impact. So, like, does it really look like there's a big impact? Does it really look like it hurts? You know what I mean? A tombstone, it looks like you're dropping him on its head. So that has good impact. Just to give you guys an example. And then the third is self-harm. Does it look like you're hurting yourself while performing this finishing move? And, the worst thing that could happen, and what might get you on my list, is it looking like you're hurting yourself much more than your opponent with your finishing move. So those are the 3 things that I took into account. And I'm going to tell you guys, I outlawed, for me, submission holds. Okay? Almost all submission holds, with the exception of maybe the cross-face chicken wing or the ankle lock, like these are impractical. You literally need somebody to cooperate with you to allow you to put them into a figure 4 leg lock. I'm sorry, you do. To get into a sharpshooter or a Boston Crab, I mean, you need to either be unconscious or very cooperative. Okay, so as a whole, submission holds, mandible claw, ridiculous submission holds, all the way down through. I left them off of my list. It's totally fine if you guys have them on your list. All right, here we go. This is in no particular order, so I'll just call this number 1 on my list. So number 1 on my list, one of my all-time favorite tag teams, one of the coolest looking tag teams of all time. The only thing that I ever had a problem with is that they had such a lame finisher, and that is Demolition. Okay,
Demolition.
Demolition had a finisher that I believe was called Decapitation. And what Decapitation was, you guys have seen it, is Smash will basically get down on a knee and lay the guy's body across his knee as though he had just done a backbreaker. And then Axe would come off the second turnbuckle and elbow drop, the person off of the knee. Now, in my opinion, to me, it's all about poor impact. That would actually hurt less than an elbow drop with you laying on the floor, right? I mean, you're actually like, there's some give as you flop off the knee and fall down. So for such a high-profile tag team, high-impact wrestlers, that was lame. That made my list. The Decapitation by Demolition. Number 2. This is probably the only appearance of a primarily WCW wrestler on here. It's who better than Canyon, but who better than his finishing move? All of them, okay? The Flatliner. This one is a 10 out of 10 on the self-harm scale. You guys have seen it. He hooks the opponent's head next to his own and falls backwards incredibly vigorously, apparently slamming the opponent's head into the floor, slamming his own head back as well into the floor with even more force. So this one does not pass the self-harm test for me at all. So Chris Canyon's Flatliner is number 2 on my list. Number 3, there's a punch. I bet you there's a punch on everybody's list. Well, my punch was performed by one of the Von Erichs, and it is the Texas Tornado Punch, where he basically just did a spin that he wasn't even good at and punched you, and it actually looked as though it had less impact than his regular punches that he threw in a match. That would knock you the hell out. I think in his debut, I think he actually knocks out Dusty Rose, the American Dream, with the Texas. We'll fact check that later, but I'm pretty sure like Dusty Rose sold this ridiculous punch. Listen, there's a lot of different things that you could come up with a tornado theme. A simple spinning punch. Come on, man. Come on. All right. Number 4. Now this one's might be controversial for you guys, but you remember when Lex Luger left WCW and came to the WWF? He was the whatever
the narcissist.
The narcissist.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he did a running forearm to the head. Now the gimmick was he had a metal plate in his forearm, and that's why it hurt. So I guess it's believable if the man does have a metal plate in his forearm. That is very high impact. That would be a very effective move. But we all know that if he truly did have a metal plate in his forearm, he would not be allowed to strike people with it. The rules in wrestling, they're very flexible, but come on. So that was extremely lame. His torture, like I said, I took finishers out or submissions out of it, but his stupid torture rack wasn't much better. But I decided to go with the metal arm forearm attack from Lex Luger.
They should have had a metal detector at ringside just every match.
Yeah.
Nothing good about Luger at all. Nothing ever good about Luger.
No.
The mullet was good. That's
the mullet, okay, I'll give you that. The mullet.
Great hair. And number 5, and I think this one has a chance to be duplicated on our list, but this one pretty much fails almost all my tests, and that is the worm from Scotty 2 Hotty. It gives your opponent enough time to completely recover as he hops around in a circle. He does the worm, and I don't know about you guys, but if I do the worm, it is definitely self-harm. So it loses that test for me, and then it's basically some form of karate chop. So after 40 seconds of hopping around the ring, the karate chop down, and apparently gets a pinfall on that. So in a time where we're watching AEW, where guys will kick out of 7 or 8 spinning DDTs, the worm used to get a pin. So there you go, guys. That is my list. Demolition, the Decapitation, Canyon's Flatliner, Texas Tornado's Spinning Punch, Lex Luger's Metal Forearm, and the Worm from Scotty 2 Hotty. Mike, you're the guest here, so we'll let you wrap up your list at the end here. So Jamie, why don't you hit us with what you got? Now you're the indie wrestler connoisseur here, so I have a feeling you're really going to surprise us with some stuff.
I strictly avoided indie wrestling because I didn't think it was fair, because there's just too many crappy ones out there that I could have chosen. There's just too much shit to pick from. So I stuck to WWF, WWE. I do have one. The first one I'll start with was a repetitive one that you have, and that's the Scotty 2 Hotty Worm. I thought that was absolutely horrible. The spelling of the worm, WORM, and then do the worm, and then land on the guy. No dice. I'm not believing that for a minute that would finish anybody in any way, in anything. Even the tiniest of children could kick out of that, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
The next one is, I do have a punch on my list, and that is the Heart Punch by Crush.
Yeah.
The put his arm behind his head and then literally pop him in the heart. Nope, not believing that for a minute. The wind up like a baseball player to punch him in the chest. Didn't believe it at all.
Momentarily stops the blood flow to the heart, though, which is why it's high impact, right?
It's like in Kill Bill, the 5-finger death punch.
Yeah. Just like it. It was
take 5 steps and you're dead.
It was inspired by the heart punch. Yes.
My third one is one you guys have maybe have never seen, and that's by Byron Saxton. It was called the Saxtonation.
Yes.
I don't know how to explain it or what the hell it was, so I'm going to send you guys the clip, and you can watch this.
Yeah, I'll bring it up here. Mike...
Isn't it a butt to the face? Like, isn't it just he turns and like?
No.
I'm thinking of someone else then.
It's for I can't explain it, Mike. I really can't.
I'm
I don't
watching
know.
it right now. I will
I don't
try.
know what he does. If you type in Saxtonation in YouTube, you'll be able to find it right away.
What? Okay, I'm watching it. Wait, what? Hold on. I've got to. I'm gonna have to run this one back here a little bit here. I don't know. What just happened?
Right, exactly.
Okay,
So
let's try
there's
this.
that one.
Okay.
And then what else do I have here? The Great Khali, the Khali chop, where he literally chops the guy in the forehead. No, don't care how big your hand is or what you are. Using a flat edge of your hand or the very edge of your hand to chop a guy in the forehead, of all places.
Yeah.
Not gonna have much impact or much of anything. In fact, I would have appreciated if someone just would have stood there and looked at him when they did it. I would have had more appreciation for that. And finally, my last one is called The Rear View by Naomi. She would Irish whip her opponent into the ropes and then turn and jump with her ass in the air to smash into the person's face. In which case the other person would basically have to run into her ass in order for it to work. So
okay.
I don't know how much, we were talking a little earlier off camera about the ass man. I don't think it would actually have any effect when you ran into two butt cheeks with your face. I'm not sure. I'm willing to try,
Yeah.
But I don't think it would have much of effect.
That one definitely fails the practicality test, the impact test. And self-harm, potentially self-harm.
Yes,
potentially.
Yeah.
You never know.
Hey, but ass implants are big these days, so
yeah.
That's a good point. They could be the metallic ass like Luger had. You never know.
Imagine that. That's the next one. Luger has a kid. He comes in and he's got the metallic ass implants, and that's what we need to see. Okay. All right, so Jamie, quickly run through the 5 again here.
Sure. It was the Crush Heart Punch.
Yeah.
The Scotty Too Hottie Worm.
Yeah.
Khali Chop. The Byron Saxton Saxtonation.
Yeah, Mike, you got to see this. Anyway.
I think I've seen it, but yeah, because I browsed some lists and I was curious about some, so I can't remember exactly what it was, but now I know it was bad.
Yeah, and the Naomi Rear View.
The Rear View.
Yes.
All right, Mike, you're up,
right,
sir. Now tell us, before you even get into it, how good do you feel about your list after hearing our 2?
I feel good.
Yeah?
I feel good. Okay. Yeah. I took 2 more elements added to yours, so I thought about all that you said, but I also put into it the setup. Like, is the setup ridiculous to get to the finisher? Like, is it necessary? Is it just embellished? Is it ridiculous? That and mostly my dislike for the wrestler itself kind of creeped in as a bias. Like, if I hated this person, like, then the finisher was just it went hand in hand.
It's hard to ignore the hatred. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it so is. So I had the worm. So I can't say much more about that. It was absolutely ridiculous.
The worm made all
the worm was just
list.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, you can't. And the fact that it was all of that and then a chop, like if it wasn't even like a height, like it was do something cool after 45 minutes of just going around the ring. Like, yeah, I'm surprised the bell didn't ring half the time. It was terrible. Do you guys remember a guy called the Goon?
Yeah.
Yes.
The Goon.
Yes.
His finishing move, I had to kind of double check because I didn't want to be wrong, but his finishing move was a check into the boards. So he would take his opponent outside the ring and body check his opponent into the apron and then roll them in the ring and pin them. Like that. Well, I don't think he ever had really many pins.
I was going to say, like, I don't remember him winning a match.
But that was his, apparently that was his finisher. But that's an old one.
Check into the boards. Okay.
That's pretty lame.
Yeah. Very.
I did include one submission just because I think this in general is a terrible way to finish an opponent. It was Brutus Beefcake and the sleeper hold. The sleeper hold has to be one of the most ridiculous, unbelievable things that you can actually do to a wrestler. They do them in the middle of a match. They're not a finisher. And they never delivered them properly, where even when they grip the guy, you just see the arms are so loose. And if I can do that to my 5-year-old daughter, and it has no impact. I mean, it's just ridiculous to watch in the ring. And it was Brutus's calling card. Obviously, it set up his hair cutting, but the fact that this guy that was a chiseled beefcake had a sleeper hold was pretty lame to me. And I mean, it's never been duplicated to my knowledge. He was the last kind of guy that ever ever had that as a.
Would you consider the $1 Million Dream higher impact or less impact than the sleeper?
Higher impact, because the arm's getting tugged and it's getting pulled on, right? Oh, okay. So it's not just a choke, but there's some tension on the shoulder and elbow too.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Three for me was Santino when he did the Cobra, the strike. Now this could be a mandible claw too, because he had that as well. And I don't want to bash Mick Foley, but the mandible claw was something that I thought was always ridiculous. And even Bray Wyatt does that now, or the Fiend does that now. But it was Santino's how he did the chop, the crazy thing. He put the snake over his arm and like this foolish, like I don't have any time for crazy gimmicks like that. Like that to me is just silly. Mm-hmm. And the fact that he would just strike a guy in the mouth with his hand and the guy would be unconscious.
Don't forget he had to pull the sock out of his trunks.
That's part of the setup, right? Ridiculous that he had to and the fact, I mean, it was a crowd pleaser, right? But in terms of a true finisher, no. And I mean, then he slapped the mandible claw on him, so it's kind of a partial finisher, but equally ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then the worm, of course, they had, and the final one to me, and I hated this wrestler, the moves, everything, was the 3-point stance clothesline by Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Yeah.
For several reasons. First of all, the 3-point stance. Not sure what advantage that really gives you, because he never moved fast. So it's not like he was, a linebacker coming in,
he used to be
an edge lineman.
Yeah, he used to be a defensive end, Mike. So coming out of the 3-point stance, the impact immediately goes up 150, 160%, at least.
Yes.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
But
very little
the thing was.
Yeah.
But the thing was, if you ever watch him deliver the clothesline,
like
this isn't JBL. This is just like a running, and he never actually moved forward. He just kind of ran into you with his arm. Like it wasn't an actual clothesline really at all. And apparently that was good enough to pin the opponent.
Okay.
So I mean, a close move like a clothesline that's done 20 times in a match often, just as a regular move, as a finisher. But if he gets done on all three and comes at you, I guess you don't have a chance. You don't have a choice.
Well, there you have it, guys. I mean, this is going to be hard for the three of us to decide upon. I think probably we all favor our own lists. I'm thinking. I will say one thing. I just saw the Saxtonation for the first time ever, and it would have made my list if I knew that was a thing. That was one of the dumbest. That fails all the tests. That's for sure. Yeah, and I mean, again, I thought, I'm not bashing your decision to put a submission hold on your list, but I outlawed them because they seemed too easy. But that said, yeah, I don't know, guys. Is this a draw, Jamie? How do you feel?
I think we just celebrate.
Obviously,
the fact
we
that these
settled on the worm. The worm was the worst finisher. Ever. I think we'd have to say there. I would say it's a draw. I think all of those are pretty.
Yeah, I think we could combine our list, and we've got the top 15 or 13 since we had some overlap there. Let me ask you guys this: would the People's Elbow have made your list if it was actually a finisher? Some people call it a finisher, but that he has finished people with it.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we have to include Hogan's leg drop. That's a default automatic no-brainer, right? That's not even debatable.
Jamie and I talked about Hogan's leg drop off camera. Here's how I'll defend it, Mike, because it is stupid as a finisher. However, if you look at Hogan's moveset, the boot to the face and the leg drop are the two highest impact moves that he does in an entire match. He throws the worst punch I've ever seen. He does a body slam. That's the extent.
Yep.
I mean, you might see the odd suplex in his earlier days.
Yeah.
But really, a big boot to the face. Plus the leg drop. I don't consider the leg drop Hogan's finisher. I consider the boot to the face and the leg drop Hogan's finisher because I've never seen him do one without the other. And the boot to the face, if Sweet Chin Music is believable, then a boot to the face when you're coming full steam off the ropes, very believable. Pretty big leg, it's lame, but I can buy its impact at least.
He had big legs. I mean, yeah,
it's true.
And he pinned 4,000 people with it. Like, it's not like it was like he got lucky. Like, he finished everyone with that thing.
I actually hear he had his hamstring replaced with a metal plate too. So
it could be.
Yeah.
With a curtain rod.
Yeah.
One that I'm shocked we didn't include, and we talked about this one too before Mike was on, was the Ultimate Warrior's backsplash to the back.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
That was stupid.
Yeah, that was really bad.
And it usually followed his press, where which was also stupid, is he would lift somebody, do a press, and then just drop them flat down. Like, there was no downward force applied.
They could catch themselves because it was on their stomach, right?
Yeah, like he wasn't throwing down at all. He was just letting gravity do the thing, and then letting gravity.
Yeah. It would suck to be dropped like that. Yeah. But you have to let the guy pick you up like that, first of all. So the setup would be part of the issue there.
But of all the ways that you could be dropped, I would prefer that one over all of them.
Yeah.
I mean, I just catch myself on the way down, So yeah, that one was pretty bad too.
Confirm this for me. Rikishi Stinkface, not a finisher, right?
No.
But disgusting, but not like
no. That's in the realm of the Bronco Buster, right? Not a finisher.
Yeah. Not a finisher.
Just something really stupid,
Just disgusting, yeah.
All right, guys. Well, there's our lists. I went into this thinking we would be arguing this out, but there's no arguing it. And another thing I don't think that we could argue is the fact that there's probably 15 to 20 that we haven't even thought of tonight that are as bad as everything that we just mentioned. So. Anyways.
I wanted to include a punch. Like, I had Big Show's punch on the list originally, just because it was just a punch. Like, and the question's like, why didn't you just throw that like within two seconds into the match and just end it? And like, yeah,
I agree. Yeah, I thought hard about that one too, and just
because he can grab anybody by the neck and just punch them. Like, that's. Yeah. He should be undefeated, using that.
What's a very popular just because this just came to my mind when you said Big Show, but a very popular finisher that I never liked, I always thought was stupid, is a choke slam. And there are good ones, there are bad ones, but even the good ones.
What about choke slam to hell? Like, is that worse? Like, choke slam to hell, like you're.
Clearly, there's higher impact there, Mike.
Yeah.
If you're clearing yourself all the way to hell.
Yeah.
That's knocking you somewhere.
It's hard to, I mean, if you were in AEW, you'd kick out of hell, no problem.
Yeah, 6 or 7 times.
Yeah, 3-4 times in a match at least, But all right, well, that's the show this week. Thanks for joining us, Mike, and we'll have you back on for some more top 5 lists. I think Jamie and I already have a bunch of ideas for these, so we'll see what we can do.
All right.
Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, guys.
All right, see you guys.